55 KRC, the talk station.
8:05 at 55 KRC, the talk station. A very happy Wednesday to you. Hope to see you at listener lunch today. March 1st Brewery's Blue Clash location on East Kemper. Welcome back to the 55 KRC Morning Show, representing Ohio's 2nd District, Congressman Dave Taylor. Dave, good to have you back on the program.
Good morning, Brian. Thank you very much for having me.
And you were there, weren't you?
I was indeed.
I obviously want to hear anything you want to say about that, but former Anderson Township trustee Drew Pappas called in this morning, and he just could not believe. And I understand apparently the Democrats got a memo saying do not stand for literally anything Donald Trump says or does, period, end of story. We don't know what they were threatened with, but clearly the message got out. They couldn't even stand up for the 13-year-old brain cancer survivor, DJ Daniel.
Yeah, it would take a very serious threat to keep everybody from standing up for that, and I can only assume that's the case. I've never known Mr. Pappas to be wrong about anything after all. But DJ Daniel was the highlight of my night, not just the part where he was made our newest Secret Service agent. But when I was walking out, going to meet my wife to head home, I bumped into him in the hallway, and he was standing there. So I went over to congratulate him, and he said, "I'm going to give you a hug."
Oh, man.
Yes, you are. Thank you, young man. And he was quite a young guy.
That's like an allergy-inducing moment there, I imagine,
yeah.
Dave. Yeah,
exactly.
I know.
That's what happened.
Experience those. But shameless that the Democrats couldn't even stand for a cancer survivor and just an honoree like that. But whatever.
Right.
I thought Trump did, I didn't watch it live. I acknowledge because I go to bed early because I get up at 2:30 to do the morning show. But I read every single word in the transcript, and he did a phenomenal job outlining the accomplishments. It took him a record-setting length to do it. The guy just got sworn in like 5 minutes ago, and it took him plus an hour to get through all the accomplishments and what he wants Congress to get accomplished as well. It really is amazing, isn't it?
It is. I didn't realize how long the speech was until afterwards because it didn't seem long. It was such a great speech, and we were enjoying it. And as you say, it's always nice to hear all the things that are being done and moving us in the right direction, and it's a long list. And it's just going to get longer, and it made for a very enjoyable night.
Well, particularly when I have fully appreciate the work that DOGE is doing, the Department of Government Efficiency, and although they're for whatever reason they think Elon Musk is a Nazi or something because he's ferreting out all this fraud, waste, and abuse, the highlight for me was that section. Then the Democrats sitting on their hands as they were and screaming madly throughout the last several weeks about the cuts. These are absolutely indefensible expenditures of money. How can anyone in a country that's broke, if we were sitting on a pile of cash and had all kinds of money to throw around, maybe you could try justifying circumcisions in Mozambique or whatever. But in the final analysis, we are broke, and none of these programs sound legitimate at all. And more fundamentally, that money isn't followed. Nobody's doing an accounting on how it was spent or even if they accomplished the goals that they purport to serve.
That last point you made, Brian, is the thing that's on my mind the most when he was reading that laundry list of atrocities that DOGE has discovered. They're silly sounding, and they are silly and sometimes worse than silly, but are those dollars really ever leaving the United States, or are they being funneled into regime change operations under U.S. aid or all the other nefarious things they've been up to here and abroad? The studies they do on transgender rodents or whatever in some other country. Let's see the studies. If that money's been spent, let's see the results of the studies so we can at least know that it was used for that terrible idea.
Well, it sounds like a simple proposition, but you'd have to grow the number of government employees tremendously, fill them with accountants in order to track all this money. It's just an illustration of how bloated and insane the expenditures flowing out of Washington, D.C. are. So much so, and I'll have a stab at the military budget, we can't even audit our own military budget of $850 billion.
Right, and they failed, 8 in a row? And when they interviewed the lady about it, she says, that's not an indication that there's fraud, waste, or abuse. I'm like, how in the world is that not obviously evidence of fraud, waste, and abuse when you can't account for the money you were sent to spend on defending our nation?
Yes, I also got a kick in, speaking of fraud, waste, and abuse, the numbers of folks in this country apparently who are over than 120 years old or 150 or in one case 360 years old. That's an open account. Now, I'm not suggesting in every single one of those circumstances checks are still going to some presumably dead person, but that is a vehicle for fraud. If someone illegally in our country without a work permit wants to work, they can grab one of those active Social Security numbers and assert it as their own.
Exactly, and they found cases where they're the same Social Security numbers being used for thousands of different accounts. The benefits going a bunch of different directions. But I was glad to hear that there's a 249-year-old, so their 250th birthday will coincide with our nation's 250th.
I know
celebrations next year, 4th of July.
I know. Congressman Dave Taylor, Donald Trump did illustrate and highlight a number of things that Congress is going to have to do that are outside of the controls of executive authority. And, no one wants an imperial president, but Congress must act. He talked about cutting taxes, making them permanent, among other things. Is any of the thing, or are any of the things that Donald Trump suggested he wants Congress to act on and do, are they going to be accomplished? Or are we going to end up in one of these, not in my district kind of arguments that we quite often get from some Republicans out there?
I believe so, Brian. We're working very hard on that. The Tax Cuts and Job Act, which the media and Democrats insist only benefits billionaires, benefits every single tax-paying household in the United States. It's absolutely vital that we get that extended, if not made permanent, this go around. But yeah, we're going to get a lot of those things accomplished. Nobody ever gets everything they want in politics, but I think we're going to really move the ball forward in this round of reconciliation. We'll have another crack at it in 2026. It's going to be a transformative couple of years, and I just want to reassure you that the political will is there on our side, and we understand that everybody knows somebody who's employed by the federal government, and nobody really wants anybody to lose their job. But we don't want people's tax dollars going to support an unnecessary job either. So that's a reality that's going to have to be addressed.
And the other thing that he obviously burst the bubble of those who were giddy with happiness that meeting imploded with Vladimir Zelensky. But I guess Vlad came back around, didn't he?
Yeah, it's funny how money changes his mind so quickly. He went immediately ran over to Europe to beg for money, didn't get nearly what he needed. And then President Trump rightly said, we're not selling you any more weapons to prolong this bloody war that's going nowhere. No one even really understands what winning it means. It changed his mind pretty quickly. Hopefully we actually move towards peace, which everybody wants. I think everybody wants that. I know, it sort of benefits the other side of the aisle that when the war is not ended quickly, when President Trump made it a priority to end it quickly. So they may want to interfere, and there's certainly some indications that that has been happening. But I think every normal thinking person in the country and the world would like to see that war end.
Without question. And if he does sign the minerals deal, that would create an American lasting presence there. American business would be established there to extract the minerals, which I suppose, as we do in other areas of the world where we have American interests, that would provide at least some sort of argument, whether it's legitimate or not. I'm not a war hawk, and I don't like the fact that we always act as the world's police officer, as evidenced by this particular conflict. But if we have an American presence there, then that does justify defending the American interests on some level, does it not?
It absolutely doesn't. Those rare earth minerals are so important to so many of the things we're moving into in technology now. It would be not just an American interest, but a vital one that we would take very seriously. I mean, that, as you said, is in and of itself a security guarantee. Yeah,
and I love that he, after highlighting the fact that he ended a lot of these green projects, which seem to be a tremendous waste of the taxpayer dollar. I think it's rather interesting, ironic perhaps, that Europe spent more money buying Russian oil and gas than they've spent on defending Ukraine so far, and Ukraine's in their backyard, not ours.
Right. That's when you get to the bottom of it, it's usually the case that money is the reason this war continues. It's become profitable for Iran, for Russia, and half of our $300 billion that's gone over there is unaccounted for to a country that the only thing you heard about in the media before this war started about Ukraine was it's the most corrupt country in the world, and now the money's missing, and we're acting surprised. So, yeah, it usually comes down to money and Europe's relationship with Russia in this situation, and then their purported undying support for Ukraine doesn't make a lot of sense.
Well, it doesn't, and using Russian gas and oil while not extracting their own in the European Union flies in the face of all of their green arguments. I mean, if you're still using petroleum products, as we traditionally call them, then how can you get to net carbon zero, which they seem to be chasing their tail over? It just doesn't make a whit's worth of sense.
Right, and President Trump in his first term warned Germany and other European nations that they'd regret buying or depending on Russia for their energy, and they laughed, and now here we are.
Yes, we are. Any other observations you want to mention, Congressman Taylor?
It was a great night. It was, like you said, an absolute laundry list of highlights. And as something you mentioned earlier, President Trump's request for Congress, and that he wants to see us do more of our job, and I do too. And we've been doing that. Our goal, and my goal in my office, and lots of my colleagues on the Republican side have been actively trying to codify President Trump's executive orders into law, because, I mean, frankly, that's the way it ought to be done. I'm not a fan of executive orders. I think, as we've talked about before,
right.
We're supposed to be governed by legislation, and we're really trying to make a point of doing that, because obviously the things he's doing need to be done. They're great. They're going to move us forward, but we need to make them the law so they don't get flipped over in the hopefully unlikely event that I see another Democrat president in my lifetime.
Well, given the Democrat strategy right now is just say absolutely no to literally everything Donald Trump does, regardless of how good it is for our country, I'm not quite sure what they're going to run on, with the notable exception of inflation. And I thought Donald Trump may have stepped in it when, before the election, he said he was going to stop inflation on day one. That's not a thing that one single man can accomplish on his own. And with all the pressures and all the factors and things that influence inflation, it's going to be a tough road to hoe. And again, going back to Trump's executive orders, the tariffs are going to cause things to go up in price. I think any economist will acknowledge that.
I think that's something he acknowledged too. There could be a little time of adjustment, but the tariffs are going to help with one thing that I think is vitally important, if not a lot of other things. I'm not an economist, but I'm learning. I think we all realize that we've let too much of our vital supply chain move offshore, and the tariffs will help us onshore those things. So we need American steel production to increase. We need agricultural products here. Believe it or not, over the last 2 years, we're a net importer of agricultural goods, which is just shocking.
It is.
Unleashing the energy sector, getting our pharmaceuticals back. We're depending on China for a lot of these things, but depending on them for pharmaceuticals is just crazy. Computer chips, which obviously the president announced two days ago, and then spoke about last night, the big the Taiwan chip making investment that's coming our way. So it'll help a lot with that. I believe the economy is going to really thrive under President Trump, obviously, as I think most people do. And we'll be making more money, and under the Tax Cuts and Job Act, when extended, we'll be keeping more of it. So that's going to help the economy in general. But hopefully the tariffs aren't necessary forever, because really all it takes to remove the tariffs, which are reciprocal, is for our trading partners to remove their tariffs. Canada's been leveling these extremely high tariffs on us for a long time, and we really didn't say anything about it. And then eventually we politely said, hey, could you mind stopping these people from crossing your border into our country and bringing this deadly drug that's killing our people? And they couldn't be bothered. So some things have to be done until they start acting like the friend that they have always been again. And that's what President Trump's trying to do, I believe.
Yep, and it's already starting to bear fruit. You mentioned the investments, $1.7 trillion over the past several weeks. You did have some crackdowns by the Mexican government sending troops to the southern border. They did extradite 25 or 6 of the worst cartel folks for prosecution here. And, of course, Canada's taking similar actions on their border. So maybe it'll work. Congressman Dave Taylor, 2nd District of Ohio, it's been a pleasure talking with you this morning. Keep up the good work, and I look forward to having you back on the show real soon.
Brian, I appreciate it, and I hope to talk to you soon and have a great day.
You do the same, sir. 820, 55 KRC, the talk station.